All right, first and foremost, thanks. I'm not sure who's all listening in, but thank you all for partnering with 6th Avenue to help us achieve our goals. Can you guys see the presentation?
Yeah, we got it.
Okay, perfect. All right, so I'm gonna jump right in with our CMAS data. Overall, you can see our school proficiency went up 2.5%. We were up 3.1% in math proficiency and 2% in ELA. Overall, 3rd grade was pretty flat, just with a slight increase there. And then we did have 3 to 4% gains for 4th grade and 5th grade ELA. And then in terms of math, you can see 3rd grade math went up 5%. 4th grade actually went down 2%. And then 5th grade had a 6.3% gain last year. And then in terms of does not meet, overall in ELA, we decreased does not meet students by 2.4%. And in math, we decreased does not meet students by 1.5%. So not really significant gains there. But certainly we did still have some celebrations within this data. If you look at our 5th grade, well, first of all of the grade levels decreased except for 4th grade ELA. They actually had a slight increase in zeros. So we know we have a lot of work to do this year with our 4th grade team. But in terms of celebrations, obviously the biggest one being that 5th grade math decreased, let's see, sorry. 5th grade ELA, sorry, decreased does not meet by 12%. So that was pretty significant. And obviously we want to make sure that all of our grade levels are kind of decreasing at this level. That would be awesome. And then also with our students on IEPs, we had some celebrations there. So you could see in ELA, our students on IEPs decreased does not meet students by 34.6. And in math, our students on IEPs decreased does not meet by 22%. So we were really proud of the work that our ESS team is doing with students on IEPs. When we got our preliminary SPF last year, we did originally come back as priority improvement. We were 2 points away from improvement. So we did appeal our SPF rating with our iReady data, just using our iReady data from K through 5 to show that we were making adequate growth as a school. And so we were able to win that appeal and we did get improvement status. We were at, of course, 40 points. And then this year we did move up 5.2 points. So we are more solidly into the improvement plan category. My team is well aware of the success that we made there and that also we need to move at least 8 points, a minimum of 8 points to reach performance status for next school year. And then in terms of our 90-day plan, we do have 3 big rocks this year. Last year, we really just kind of focused on curriculum components and data systems and structures. But this year, give me just a second, I'm trying to move my box here. So our first big rock is around curriculum components. The priorities here being that we want to obviously provide a standards-based, guaranteed, and viable curriculum through high-quality Tier 1 and Tier 2 instruction. Last year and my first year here as principal, we primarily focused just on Tier 1, making sure that we were in the standards and that we had high-quality Tier 1 instruction happening. This year, we have shifted to also concentrate on Tier 2. So we're continuing to build capacity with Tier 1, but then also shifting our focus to Tier 2. So that's a lot of the work that we're doing this year. Of course, continued support with new curricular resources, continuing to build our capacity around both Tier 1 and Tier 2, and then obviously continuing to develop our capacity around scaffolding up, providing access to students who are 1 and 2 years below grade level, and of course for our ELLs and for students on IEPs. And then big rock number 2 is really around data systems and structures, and this is really us refining our PLCs. We have some really solid things going with PLCs, but this year our focus is shifting more to, last year I think we did a great job with data analysis, but we didn't always have the data ahead of time so that we could thoughtfully plan for the PLC. Excuse me. So this year, we're making sure that teachers have all of their data in a data tracker by Monday, and that they're also sharing the student work with us. So we, as a leadership team, get that student data and the student work, and we're analyzing that first as a leadership team to then plan for the PLC the next day. So that has been huge for us this year. We feel like, you know, we've been able to get further faster just from having that structure in place. And so that's allowing us, having the data ahead of time and having a more clear plan for PLCs is allowing us to do deeper action planning with the teams. And then now we're starting to shift into that practice piece of the Bambrick protocol. So really actually getting teachers up, practicing in front of each other what the lesson is going to actually look like and sound like. And then of course, accountability to action planning. Last year, we did a great job of that with the interim reteach. So like after teachers did the action planning reteach, as a leadership team, we would go in and kind of monitor the reteach and we would give feedback. And so like I said, it was going really great with interims. We weren't necessarily doing that with weekly PLCs. And so early this year, that's something I noticed is like, okay, we're doing these great action plans. We're planning and we're doing the action planning in PLCs, but I wasn't necessarily seeing what we talked about implemented, or like I was seeing it implemented, but not to the level at which we discussed. So it was like pieces and parts of the action plan were put in there, but it wasn't being taught the way that we discussed it was going to be taught. So we're really, as a leadership team, pushing to make sure that we are in classroom every week after PLCs to make sure that we're seeing actual implementation of the action plan. And then we're also under data systems and structures, continuing to refine our MTSS system. I shared with you all last year that we were kind of mimicking something from our Connect for Success partnership with Soaring Eagles down in Colorado Springs, where we do monthly MTSS with every single grade level. We just felt like the old model was not really meeting the needs because we were only able to talk about 4 to 6 kids a month, and that just was not enough given the number of students that we have that are not on grade level. So we switched to this format where we meet with every grade level team every month to talk about, we're talking about 50 kids a month now compared to 4 to 6. So we're really excited about that and hoping to continue to refine that system and be able to support more kids more timely. And then this year we did add, as I mentioned, a third big rock around climate and culture. From our TLCC survey, we saw a dip in our TLCC results kind of across the board. Part of that I think was just me being a second-year principal and like, I'm not sure what the model is that Rico always shows, but kind of the model of change and how people kind of navigate change. And sometimes you kind of see that dip after there's some shifts being made. So I think a lot of that just kind of had to do with that. But obviously, we want to be proactive in addressing and supporting any needs and concerns of our staff. And so we are focused on leadership, teacher leadership, and student conduct were kind of the 3 areas from the TLCC survey that we wanted to address. And so we are doing some relaunching and some refinements to our PBIS systems, structures, and processes. We want to continue to support school-wide social emotional learning. We've had some surface level things in place to support that, and we want to obviously take that deeper and make sure that we're providing more like uniform practices and a common language across the school. Obviously, clarity of school-wide student expectations, developing processes for staff to be able to provide input to leadership and have more voice and choice in decision making. And then using our MTSS process to better support tier 2 and tier 3 interventions. And then again, like I said, just creating more opportunities for teacher leadership. And I feel like we're making good progress on all of these things. All right, so then this is kind of some of the ways that we are checking in with our district goals of increasing proficiency by 5% and decreasing does not meets by 5%. What we did is we actually, so these are the goals from our 90-day plan. So you can kind of see the goal here underneath each grade level. And then what I did is I put, where are we at in terms of interim 1, right? So second grade, you can see their goal with the 5% increase from last year would be 18, and based on interim 1, they're 7.6% proficient. So we definitely have some teams that are still really far away from the goal. So like, again, I said fourth grade, ELA is gonna be huge for us this year. We're needing to put a lot of supports there, and you can see they're kind of 1.6% proficient, and their goal is 19, so they're pretty far away from their goal after first quarter. So we're going to have to be really strategic in these next 2 quarters on what supports for them look like. But certainly have some celebrations as well. So if you look at second grade math, their goal is 6%. They're at 19.4 as a grade level, so some great success there. Fifth grade, they're kind of halfway to the goal. Just after interim 1, so they're at 15%. Their goal is 31. So this is just one of the ways that we're kind of monitoring with the interim. How are we progressing towards our district and 90-day plan goals? Another way that we're kind of monitoring our progress is we wanted to look at data, kind of comparing last year's interim to this year's interim. We realized that they're 2 totally different interims, so we're not technically comparing apples to apples, but just wanting to kind of see how we're progressing and how this year's data compares to last year's data. And so what we did, again, you can kind of see this was the bottom line here is where we were with last year's interim, and then the top line is where we are with this year's interim. So again, there's some celebrations at some grade levels where we're seeing more green. So again, second grade, this year they're at 7.6 versus last year we were at 4%. And then also looking at the short constructor response and seeing that we have less zeros. So again, some of the celebrations there is that fourth grade had 27 less zeros this year on short constructor response. And then second grade is 3% more proficient. Fifth grade is 7% more proficient. In terms of math, which is the next slide here. In terms of math, we had fourth grade had 41 less zeros on short constructor response. And then again, second grade is at 19% proficient, where we were at 0 last year. So again, just, you know, looking at what are some different ways that we progress monitor and make sure that we're on track to get to performance this year and obviously meet our district goals. This slide I'm really proud of. When we first did the strategic response, I had talked to you all about how the year before I came, the school was performance, and then we dipped down to priority improvement. But in looking at the data, what I determined is that we didn't have uniform practices across the school. Really, why we were able to hit performance that year before I came is because there were 2 teachers who were exceeding growth expectations, and they were like in the 80th percentile. You can see one of them right here. The other one is no longer here, so I don't have her data on here, but really it was those teachers who were kind of rocking it out that allowed us to hit performance status, but it wasn't uniform across the school. And you can kind of see that here as well. So what this graph does is it shows how we're building teacher capacity. These are my 4th and 5th grade teachers that we've retained, and kind of how they've progressed, what their growth data look like for the past 3 years. So you can kind of see Clayton here. She was just barely above does not meets for median growth percentile in 16-17 and 17-18, but last year she was at 58.5, so meeting expectations. Mr. Grant wasn't here in 16-17, but in 17-18 he was at the 38th percentile, and last year he was at the 54th. The same thing with Miss Smith. She wasn't here in 16-17, but in 17-18 she was at the 45th percentile. Last year she was at the 71st. She was exceeding expectations. Ms. Wolfgang did take a little bit of a dip last year, but I don't think that was due to like lower quality instruction. I think she had a more heavily impacted group. And so one thing we are doing is proactively supporting, because she has really solid tier 1 instruction. Where she probably needs support is with tier 2, and I think that's why we saw a little bit of a dip in her data.
So,
but then,
Vanessa,
yeah.
I'm sorry to interrupt you. Can you speak up just a little bit so we can capture?
Oh, yes, I'm sorry.
That's all right, thanks.
Okay, and then, so if you look at math, Miss Clayton in 16-17 was at the 41st percentile. She has gone up every year, so she moved up to 58.5. And then in 18-19, last year, she was at 67.5. Again, Mr. Grant and Mrs. Smith were not here in 16-17, but you can see both of them went from basically approaching in their median percentile scores to meeting expectations. And then Ms. Wolfgang was already exceeding, but she went deeper into exceeding expectations. So this data is really important to me because what I'm trying to build is I'm trying to build a systems dependent, like I want our performance to be systems dependent, not teacher dependent. But I also want to build capacity of all of our teachers. And I feel like this data helps show how we are building capacity of all of our teachers. And then, you know, obviously I want this for the whole school. So what I'm going to use is the iReady growth data so that I can monitor growth by teacher for every teacher K-5 in the building. All right, so kind of moving now to our human resources and support services challenges. Some of the challenges that we've had this year is just we're needing more active support from human resources with recruitment for vacancies during the school year. So like, you know, basically those times when it's not prime hiring season, that's the time that we can really use more support from human resources in terms of helping us fill our hard to fill positions. AN has been really difficult. We're just now, after fall break, gonna be fully staffed for AN, hopefully. And then, you know, just thinking about some of the other positions when it's not prime time. Also, affective needs classified and licensed staff have been hard to staff and hard to retain. We've already had 2 paraprofessionals quit this year. And so we were able to recruit 2 new staff members that are gonna come on board after fall break. But just really thinking about how can we get support with that. We have experienced some staffing competition with Kelly Services. So Kelly Services is actually paying more than we pay. So it's been really hard to try to recruit anyone when like some of the people who are subbing for us who are really great and might otherwise be interested in the position are not interested in the position because they make more money with Kelly Services than they make with APS. So just something that we want to think about. And then obviously we're grateful for all of the new mental health providers that we've had, but just some challenges with training and onboarding. A lot of the people that are serving in our building this year are brand new to the field even. So, you know, we have a very highly impacted building. And so just thinking about how can we train them up quickly so that they can really make an impact in our school. And then again, just thinking about those systems and structures to support the mental health services that we've got. So thankfully, we're really grateful that we are fully staffed with mental health now, but then what are the systems and structures that they need so that they can do their work and be successful? And so we have reached out to the director, I can't remember his name, but he was just out this week to work with us on building some of those systems for our social workers. So that's been really helpful, and obviously we want to continue that work. Okay, and then in terms of our requested supports from the district or from the Division of Equity and Learning, really our most pressing need right now is district level support for AN, and I know this is commonly known at this point, and I know there's going to be more meetings and conversations about this, but just wanted to kind of express what our challenges, what our greatest challenges are right now. First and foremost, we have increased enrollment in our AN program. In fact, this is the highest level of enrollment that we've had in the 19 years that 6th Avenue has had an effective needs program. There's currently only 3 elementary schools in the district with AN programs, and so we feel like that is part of the need for overcrowding in the AN programs right now. Is since there's really only 3 programs for them to go to, they keep sending more and more kiddos. And with, so another challenge that we're seeing is higher levels of externalizing behaviors. So we're really seeing daily escalations, destruction of school and personal property, physical aggression and assault towards staff and students. And this is really the highest level of needs that we've experienced in this building, as measured by intensity, frequency, and duration of their escalations. And then, of course, all of these things, so, having 12 students with high-level externalizing social emotional disabilities in the same classroom creates safety concerns, but it also negatively impacts our climate and culture, right? So my staff is constantly expressing that they don't feel safe, that it does cause vicarious trauma. So their stress levels are high when, they're trying to walk their students through the hallway and there might be a de-escalation happening. Or if, a student is escalated and they're cursing in the hallway or tantruming in the hallway, how that can be upsetting to staff members and students. And so just one of the things that we are concerned about is obviously we want to retain high quality teachers and high quality teammates in every position, and just, with having a highly impactful AN program in the building, we are concerned about how we're going to be able to retain high quality teachers in this building when they have an increased amount of stress just being in this environment. And then also, due to some of these high level behaviors, we do have increased suspensions this year. And so our suspension data is going the opposite direction from where it was going. We were sitting in a really good spot. Since I came on board, I think we only had 22 suspensions, which was like down from previous years where we were in the hundreds. And so we were really proud of that work, but I feel like it's kind of going in the opposite direction now, and it's largely due to our AN program. So really just thinking about some supports for that, and I'm happy to provide any ideas. My team has come up with a lot of ideas for that, so I'm anxious to share that. But then also some other supports that we're requesting is continued support with our new district curricular resources. So ELA Achieve, the Lucy Calkins, the Fontes and Pinnell, and Bridges. Also, we have had an increase of newcomers at 6th Avenue. So I think we went from like 13 newcomers last year to 20 newcomers this year. So that's an area that we definitely want to make sure that we're proactively supporting our newcomers. Not only do we have an increase in newcomers, we also have an increase. So the students who are enrolling, we have an increase of students who are non-English proficient. So I think we've had like an 8% increase, or 32 students who have recently enrolled that are non-English proficient. So just really thinking about how can we get supports from the Department of CLDE to support our newcomers, to support our kiddos who are transitioning in with less English proficiency. And then also just thinking about some of those newcomers also having gaps in their education. So like, for example, we had a 5th grader who enrolled who has not been in school for 2 years. Or like some of our primary students who are enrolling, they, they're coming in age-wise as like 1st or 2nd grade, but haven't had any education up to this point. So just really thinking about how do we support our newcomers and those with gaps in education. Also just processes to support families in crisis. So with an AN program, we often see parents of students in our AN program who also have mental health needs, or the families are in severe crisis and trauma. And so just thinking about how we can better support our families. I know that one of the Division of Equity and Learning's goals is around family engagement and like really partnering with families. And so we were just thinking, how can we better support our families in crisis so that they can engage more in academics and those sort of things. And then again, I mentioned this one, systems and structures to support mental health. Obviously, we got the additional manpower from the mill levy. So just how can we make sure that we also have the system structures and processes so they can kind of hit the ground running with their work. Protocols from ESS, we're just kind of noticing, mostly through AN, but through other means also, that there's not always protocols, there's not always clear protocols on what data collection should look like. And, you know, how much data do we collect? How long do we collect it? What is the process for identification or making changes to their IEP, that sort of thing. Like for us, we're not exactly clear on processes for like, when do we look at like a facility placement for an AN student? That's always a gray area. Or like if a student is coming back from facility, what is the, you know, what are we looking for in terms of their ability to be ready to be back in an AN program, that sort of thing. So just more clear protocols, processes, and supports for those things. Tier and 2-3 behavior support. We have had a couple of gen ed kids this year who have had, for lack of better description, kind of habitually disruptive behavior. And obviously we know we're not advocating for expulsion or anything like that, but just what are some tier 3 behavior supports that we could put in place for maybe kiddos who are showing aggression on a daily basis, or that are just really struggling with behavior. How can we best support them? We don't always have all the answers. We certainly try everything we can, but if there's, you know, more expertise, we would love to learn. And then of course, just continued district deployed support. We have always appreciated any time we have ESS consultants or directors or anything in our building, that it always feels good to know that the district support people are here in our building helping us. We've had HR be deployed to help us with certain situations, mental health, safety and security came out and supported us with a secure perimeter that we had at the end of the day that was very stressful. So just, you know, it always feels great when we have district partners in our building helping us with the work, especially when it's really challenging work or you know, things that are outside of the norm. And so really that's all I have in terms of my presentation. If I'm not sure if you guys have questions for me at this point.
So Vanessa, thank you for your presentation. Our job is to capture everything that you've shared with us with the team. And what will happen after that is that we'll reach back out to you, to make sure that we did capture what you are asking for, and then also for the appropriate individuals to then connect with you on what the next steps are going to be, so that we can start implementing the work that we need to put forth to support you.
Okay.
There are some theoretical and philosophical approaches in some of the things that you're struggling with that the district has to grapple, right? We know exactly what those are, but there's also going to be an opportunity for you to give your voice in solutions for some of those concerns. So do know that we've already had that conversation before around what those next steps are going to be. So look forward to hearing from this team around, here's what we heard, specifically whoever that person or persons happen to be. They will be then asking you, okay, now how do I now step in with my team to help support?
Okay.
All right.
All right. Sounds good.
Thanks a bunch. Appreciate it.
Appreciate you guys.
All right.
Okay. Bye-bye.